Recently, I published the paper, The Perfect Illusion. The Perfect Illusion is a discourse exploring reality and what is the truth behind reality. Now, just to make an author's commentary, what is reality? The illusion itself is based on the fact that we truly do not understand what our senses are telling us. The epistemology lies with empiricism. Epistemology is the root of knowledge, and empiricism is understanding through the senses. The study of learning through the senses and observation truly is an illusion. The reason why? Because our numerical system is linear, we start with the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 in linear sequence. Now, because the input is linear, this is the fundamental logic of our mathematics and our sciences. It progresses and evolves to ideas that are more abstract, yet the initial input is still linear. Why is this system linear? Truth be told, it is the linearity of the mind is caused by the temporal dimension. The temporal dimension is a dimension of time. And the dimension of time creates a linearity in our perception, because our linear temporal dimension also we feel in a linear sequence: 1 moment, 2 moments, 3, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. And this linear notion creates this linear logic that we know about. So, because we feel 1, 2, 3, 4 always, our comprehension is based on this linearity as well. This linearity causes an illusion. For example, it is true that using such linear systems of logic for mathematics and science, we can create wonders in medicine, architecture, engineering, and technology. It is true that if we understand that for a bacterial infection, certain milligrams of antibiotics can cure that. That is true. However, this linearity that we use to understand medicine, technology, and engineering cannot be used when understanding the fundamentals of our reality, what makes our reality sound. And people, scientists specifically, who study our sense of reality, theoretical physicists, they use this linear logic, and what they're trying to find out is a fundamental equation that explains quantum mechanics with Newtonian physics as well. So one fundamental equation that sums up physics and our notion of reality. However, the idea is linearity is being used to understand reality. Reality fundamentally is not linear. Reality started off in a non-linear fashion before the concept of time was created. In the idea of the Big Bang, for example, there existed a time frame before the existence of time. So, reality in the beginning starts without the notion of time. That is the truth. Moving forward, because reality is non-linear in nature, because reality existed without time, it is this understanding that this linear temporal dimension creates an illusion. We comprehend in a linear fashion, and linearity is not necessarily the truth. What we should understand that based on epistemology, empiricism is not the only answer. The other answer is revelation. Revelation comes from the Abrahamic books, but specifically, revelation that is pristine and that has not been altered in any way is the revelation of the Quran. Now, the intrinsic value of revelation is far higher than this concept of empiricism. Revelation, in fact, has a higher intrinsic value because it epitomizes the soul. This is because when people pray, specifically in an Islamic manner, they can feel with their souls. Now, scientifically speaking, the non-dual state is this notion. It is a notion when felt. The non-dual state creates this type of feeling in which you feel that you are greater than this reality, and truthfully that this reality is an illusion. Remember the story of Adam and Eve. In the story of Adam and Eve, the idea is man and woman are both from heaven, a higher level of heaven, and they're dropped down from earth. So this notion arises that this earth is beneath the true intrinsic value of man. And moving forward, during the era of modernism and postmodernism, man believed he was better than his reality. But we will also discuss the notion of God. Now, God is explained in the revelation. In Arabic, God is Allah. And this notion of God is explained in the revelation of the Quran. The intrinsic value of the revelation of the Quran is greater than empiricism because we can feel our souls by reading the Quran and praying in an Islamic manner. It is epitomized. The non-dual state and an intrinsic value that is higher than anything empirical. So the abstractions of formulas, mathematical formulas and formulas of physics, which try to explain our reality, don't have an intrinsic value that triggers the soul. And this is why the Quran and the revelation is higher. But more specifically, the revelation is the transfer of a message from God to a prophet. And this is equivalent to talking to God in heaven. Now, there's many ways to look at this. One understanding is that the boundaries of our comprehension is infinity. Infinity is the boundaries of our comprehension. Theoretically, the zero temporal dimension, or the dimension that is absent of time, is the truth. And God exists in a time that is devoid. God exists in a dimension that is devoid or voided of time. That is the truth. Now we know this through revelation. Because God exists in a dimension that is absent of time, we know that the zero temporal dimension, or the zero dimension of time, is the true nature of our reality. More so, What else do we know? We know because since this is the true nature of our reality, we have to understand this further to understand our future in heaven and to understand God's perception. As far as infinity being the boundary of our comprehension, a value greater than infinity could be theoretically G. G could be a value in the zero temporal dimension, the dimension of God, which is outside the realm of time. And in this realm, the value of G is higher than infinity because it is nonlinear. So, to expand the mind, we have to understand that we have to think in a non-linear type of perception, because linearity again is the illusion. So when we think in the non-linear perception, we understand that God has an infinite number of ways to comprehend and has logics that are infinite in nature. So there's linear, exponential, parabolic. There's so many degrees of nonlinear logic. That means God has complete freedom of thinking and understanding. His perception truly reigns supreme. More so. We know that heaven exists through revelation. In the Quran, it is written that the soul is a ray of light of heaven, and God or Allah is in the highest realm of reality. The hierarchy is the dunya or the universe, then Jannah or heaven, then the kursi, which is the footstool, the arsh, which is the throne, and Allah or God, which is the highest level. Now, what you have to understand is that because God is the highest level, God's perception and God epitomizes our reality to the fullest. Essentially, our reality is God. This is understood by the revelation. What we have to understand is that empiricism, string theory, and M theory creates this notion of an illusion. Empiricism makes us believe there are concepts such as the multiverse. Because when we collide particles together, we can reverse engineer this concept and notice that some parts of the particles are missing. And we understand that particles can be in two places at the same time based on their movement. However, our eyes are observing such phenomena. And because of that, we have to understand something. Our eyes are not fully good enough to understand particle movement. And this is all part of the illusion. Do not overestimate yourself by putting too much emphasis on empiricism and observation. We truly do not know, and in order to move forward, we have to understand that what we see, observe, and empirically comprehend is an illusion, and the truth is behind the revelation, because the revelation epitomizes the soul, and the intrinsic value of the soul is greater than the mind. The soul knows the truth. Heaven is the higher reality, and heaven is a reality that we call home. Remember, Adam and Eve came from heaven, and truthfully, all humans call heaven home. Heaven is where we belong. Now, Islam explains all of this, the orders of reality, the intrinsic value of heaven, the soul, and the existence of God or Allah because of the revelation. There is nothing higher than the revelation, and the scientific theories and abstractions of string theory and M theory are based on an empirical illusion. And to fully comprehend this, you have to understand this concept. If we expand these empirical theories for another 100,000 years, the bias will still be linear. And again, this linear bias gets us nowhere. So, truthfully so, if you want to break free of the linear illusion of reality, understand that the revelation of the Quran is pristine. The pristine revelation tells us the truth about the existence of God, about heaven, the afterlife, and about our souls. Now, in order to fully epitomize the truth, you have to understand that there's a dimension of morality. We must be righteous, we must be good, we must pray, we must give thanks to God, and most of all, we must epitomize our true selves, our true intrinsic value. Our value truly lies in heaven. And our value lies with our souls. Our bodies and minds are temporal, they're fragile, and they're part of an illusion. Our true value is our souls, and this chunk of our souls, the intrinsic value of our souls, lies in heaven. So the absolute reality of heaven is where we belong and is our intrinsic value. That's why no material item in this reality can have the same intrinsic value as our value in heaven. There's levels in heaven. The highest level of heaven, or heaven 7, Jannat al-Firdaus in Arabic, that is where the most wisest and righteous and worthy belong. And so your true intrinsic value in heaven deems your intrinsic value in this reality. There must be change in understanding our perception. Revelation is the truth, and I want to conclude that the Quran is the truth. Understanding things in an empirical fashion goes nowhere. Linearity is a bias, it's an illusion. The Quran, the notions of God, of Allah, of it's not just a religion. Islam is not the religion. It is the way we understand the truth. And this is an analytical approach to understanding the truth that is behind the revelation. And I want to say, be what you were truly meant to be, a heavenly being. We are heavenly beings stuck in the lower heaven of earth, and we are meant to ascend. So please, I part by saying, be righteous, pray, and remember God is always with us.